Time for Dirt Daily. Today's Dirt Daily is brought to you by onX Off-Road. onX Off-Road is a mapping app. You put it on your telephone, you download it, and then you can try it out for a week for free. Then you can decide if you want to subscribe to their service. And basically it comes out to about, it's either $45 a year or $100 a year, depending on which level of service or subscription program you want to get onto. The more expensive one is the Elite program, and it's $100 a year, basically, but you get discounts with a bunch of other companies that are kind of brand collaborators with onX. onX also offers a hunting app and a backcountry app, depending on if you're into hunting or off-roading or like hiking and mountain biking, camping, that sort of thing. So check it out online, onX. And here's the cool thing. If you sign up, you can use the 4xFred, 4x-Fred discount code and get a discount on your subscription. So not only do you get discounts with companies that are brand collaborators with onX, you also can get a discount by using me. All right, today's project is not the Land Cruiser. I usually work on my dirty 80 series Land Cruiser whenever I do an onX video. I'm waiting on some parts for that thing, and so this was sitting outside, and I was like, I really want to play with my little Chevy Tracker. I showed this in a prior video. This was an old Dirt Everyday project vehicle that then kind of got scavenged and beat up and abused and ignored, and I was able to rescue it and bring it back to the shop. And today we're going to deal with tires and wheels. These tires and wheels are cool looking, but they don't really fit right. So let's try to swap something else on to actually make the thing move, and maybe we'll dive into some other projects or see what else is in need of repair on the tiny little Tracker. Let's get to work. When the Tracker came back to my shop, it didn't have any tires and wheels on it. So I grabbed these tires and wheels that I had sitting around, and I had originally got these tires and wheels to put on a flat fender, but because the Tracker is 5 on 5.5, I just threw them on here. Now in the front, I had a problem where I had to run wheel spacers in order to get the wheels to fit over the brake caliper. And then I found that the inside of the wheel, kind of the stamping, was actually rubbing every time it would turn. Like I couldn't even turn the wheel, like I couldn't rotate it by hand. When I put it in gear, it would drive through, but you can actually see marks on the wheel where it was hitting. It looks like right here on the edge of the caliper, you can see where the wheel and the caliper were kissing, talking. Not ideal. So, time to get some new tires and wheels. So in addition to removing the tire and wheel, I'm also removing the wheel spacers. I don't need the wheel spacers for the new tires and wheels that I'm going to replace on here. And these wheel spacers are just something I had laying around. They have a 1/2-inch stud where the Tracker is a metric stud. And I was only able to actually track down 3 metric lug nuts to bolt this on. It was kind of one of those last minute things where it showed up, didn't have wheels and tires. I had some wheels and tires that would fit, but they wouldn't clear the calipers. I put these on and it almost cleared the calipers. I was able to get it off the trailer and the guys that were dropping it off could leave, but it really wasn't right. So this is coming off because I don't really want to run wheel spacers if I don't have to, and I do need to go track down more lug nuts so that I can bolt the new tires and wheels onto the Tracker. These 650/16 tires are really cool looking. In fact, what's kind of funny is that how unusual this tire is because it is so narrow. It's only about a 5-inch wide tread width. which back in like the 40s, 50s, and even early 60s, that was kind of the norm. You didn't have big, wide tires like we see nowadays. Like nowadays, if you look for a tire that is this skinny to put on a 4x4, they're almost impossible to find. This is actually from Coker Tire, and it's a remake of an old Firestone, and these are kind of designed for people that are building classic 4x4s, old Jeeps, old Army trucks, and they want to have that period correct look. There is kind of a resurgence these days of people that are building up stock looking or stock-ish or fully stock 4x4s and going wheeling with these old style tires. The old Mud and Snows, you probably remember like when we did that Bronco truck on Dirt Every Day, we had that kind of tall, skinny looking tire, and that was kind of a cool throwback to the style of old four-wheel drives. But in around the mid-60s, tire technology started to get wider. Whether it was due to desert racing, there was a time when off-roaders were like, hey, we want more flotation. This is cool because it can dig down, but when you're desert racing in the sand, you don't really want a tire to dig, you want it to float. You want it to float as much as you can across the sand. Maybe this is better in mud and snow if there's actually traction down below the top layer. Not always the case. Sometimes this is just going to dig you in and you're stuck. Then in around 1975 maybe, B.F. Goodrich came on the scene. And B.F. Goodrich brought out a tire which was very similar to this tire. This is a All-Terrain TA KO2, and this is basically a spin-off of the early all-terrains that were developed in the mid-70s, and that tire was designed to be much wider and float better over sand and work better off-road. This tire has a tread width of 7.5 inches, which is still pretty narrow compared to what a lot of 4x4s see these days, but I think this tread is going to work better on the little Tracker. Plus, I had them. These tires actually, I think, came off of one of the XJs that we built years ago. They had been sitting in the corner of my shop. They fit a 15-inch wheel, and I just ordered these wheels online. They're the cheapest 5-on-5.5 steel 15-inch wheel I could find. Nothing fancy, just a black oval or round hole wheel, and I'm gonna just bolt these guys on. I got rid of the wheel spacer. I tracked down some new lug nuts, and the idea will be that this will give the truck a little bit more of a contact patch. Well, a lot more actually, if you think about it. It's almost 50% more contact patch per tire, and then divide that over the whole truck. And that's another thing, like for off-roading, where it used to be you wanted that tall, skinny tire, I think nowadays everybody is going to a wider tire. Usually I wouldn't go with a 15-inch wheel. Normally these days I would almost always condone going to a 17 or larger if someone's going to go buy wheels. But I had the tires and the wheels were dirt cheap, and the nice thing is that with a 15-inch wheel, and this tire is, what do you think, 29 inches tall? Yep, looks like 28.5 inches tall. The wheel is right about that 50% of the tire diameter, so it's actually a little bit more. So I think this will work good. They're actually, quite honestly, like the same size or even a little bit smaller in overall diameter than the Firestones. But again, at this point, I'm just trying to get it rolling, have tires on it so I can move it around. And then once we have tires on, then we can start figuring out, well, what do we need to do to fit bigger tires on down the road? Also, don't forget, whenever you're putting tires and wheels on, throw a little bit of anti-seize on the threads of the wheel studs. It'll help keep everything from binding, make it easier to take them on and off, and make it that much nicer down the road if you ever have to change your lug nuts. Of course, you'll also get it on your hands and everything else, so be prepared for that mess. Got the tire on. I'm getting a little bit of rubbing noise, but it is not the wheel on the caliper. It is instead the rusty rotor spinning through the caliper, but we can deal with that. Got all the tires changed except for one. And when I pulled this tire off, I was looking at this fender. And this fender has a really big dent in it right here, as you can tell. And I don't know what caused this. I believe this happened after we used it on the TV show, and then it went into storage, and somebody, from the looks of it, backed a truck up and smashed it right into this corner, which isn't really a big deal because this is a trail rig, but at the same time, I can't really open the door. So the easiest thing would probably be to unbolt this fender and get behind it and hammer it out. But I want to try a trick that I have seen, but I've never actually got to do before, and I think it could be a cool little trick if it works out right. So we're going to play some basketball. In case you didn't know it, I was kind of an athlete in high school. I was the kind that was not very good. That's how I ended up playing with cars instead of playing with sports. And when it came to ball sports like basketball, football, soccer, baseball, I was not good at any of those. But I do have a basketball, and I do have a dent right here. So we're going to try a trick where we're going to deflate this and then stuff it up inside that fender and try to reinflate it behind the fender and see if it will pop that dent out. It might work, or it might blow up this basketball, which is fine because I don't really use it that much. So you're going to grab the little needle that you use to air up a ball. I think you can do this with a basketball, soccer ball, football, kind of any of these. You're going to want something that is a little bit beefy, like those big red balls that you would use for dodgeball in elementary school. I don't know that they are thick enough, especially if there's any sort of sharp objects between the fender and the inner fender. But we're going to try it. I want this, when it's collapsed, I want this to be at the edge of the seam, like basically where it's folded over. So I'm going to set that there and just slowly stand on it and try to collapse the whole thing so that I can fit it into the inner fender. Okay, we've got this flattened basketball. The needle valve is on this sort of front edge. We're going to try and basically wedge this thing into this space right behind the dent. It's going to be a little tricky, not too bad. And then you want to keep that needle, the hole for the needle, handy so that you can get the needle in it and air it up. Stuff this up there. It feels like the ball is right behind. Feels like there's a police chase going on outside there. All right. So it feels like the ball is stuffed up behind the fender right in here. Then we're going to put the needle in it and put some air in it. So there you can see it's kind of just wedged up in there between the inner fender and the dent. And I think if we put a little bit of air in this needle and the thing starts to expand, something will happen. Might not pop it out where we want it, but it'll be better than, well, it might be better, it might be worse. Okay, here's the plan. We have a basketball stuffed behind this fender. This fender has a big old dent in it, and the door doesn't want to open. It opens, but it kind of binds right in the seam here. So I had the basketball stuffed in there. I put the needle back in the basketball. I'm going to put a little bit of air in it, and we're going to watch right here and see if this pops out. I think I'll put my glasses on just so that if it blows up in my face, everything's okay. Here we go. Here goes nothing. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Ha! That actually worked pretty good. How's the door? The door clears. Still a little denty. But, I mean, that's way better than before. I wonder if I can just get behind here. I got a hammer. I wonder if I give it a whack. All right, it's kind of hard because it doesn't want to pop out this small dent. It kind of wants to push the whole fender out. So I'm going to stuff it in there one more time and see if we can get any of this kind of small dent out. And if not, we'll call it good. I think it's acceptable at this point. It's not great. All right. There. Stuff that up in there one more time. All right, let's see what it does. It's actually, oh, come on. I mean, it's way better. It's definitely not perfect. I think if I wanted perfect, I would unbolt it and find another fender and bolt it on. But I think for now, the door clears. Let's put this front tire on and get this thing out of the shop. All right, one more little tracker project, because that's how you get your project vehicles done, is you just chip away at it. This tail light on the tracker is busted because some guys took their tracker on a trail it probably really shouldn't have been on, also known as Pritchett Canyon. And but the cool part of that story is that when we went to Moab and took this tracker on Pritchett Canyon, we met some guys from the Midwest, and this one guy was he's a big Suzuki fan, and I've been in touch with him since I got the tracker, and he was like, oh, I got a tail light. So my buddy Adam sent me this brand new tail light, and I am going to bolt it on. It should be pretty easy. Hopefully, when I get this thing back on the trail, I don't instantly smash it again. But 2 screws and pops right out. Wiring harness. There we go. Clip that. Old tail light. New tail light. Plugged in. Feed all those wires back into their home. Look at that. Pretty easy peasy. One more thing off the list. New tires and wheels. Don't forget to always torque your lug nuts. You can go online and look up the torque spec based on the lug nut size. These are 70 to 80 pound-feet because they are 12 mil by 1.25 lug nuts. New wheels and tires. I mean, I don't think they're as wow as the bright orange wheels, but I think they will probably work much better. Plus, they're not going to run into the calipers, which is definitely a bonus. What do you guys think about this little car? Every now and then I do something to it and it makes it that much more fun. I don't know that I love the paint scheme, but that's really not a priority because right now it's not running right because the exhaust is still missing and the front axle is broken. So once I fix those 2 things, then we can talk about a paint scheme. Or you can leave a comment below on what color you think I should paint it, if I should paint it at all. That's it for this Dirt Daily. We'll see you guys next time. Don't forget to use the 4xFred discount code if you want to sign up for Onyx Off-Road. And yeah, that's it. We'll see you guys next time. This is a cool little truck, I think. I don't think I can dribble the basketball without looking at it, which is probably not ideal if you're going to play basketball. Sports! Go team!